Why don't estate agents get paid enough?
Some estate agents, you could argue, get paid too much, Chris. No, I mean, I was actually thinking about this literally by coincidence yesterday and today. In fact, I even wrote a note which is on my phone to say just a thought that ran through my head, and it was this: if you're an underachiever, you're working for me as a negotiator, and you're underachieving, you may have to work more hours, okay? And if you're an overachiever and you're doing really, really well, we may give you more time off. And I thought to myself, why am I thinking this? And that's because we really tie ourselves up in knots about, how many hours should we work and all that stuff. But reality is we don't get paid for the hours we work in a estate agency. We get paid for the results that we achieve. Mm-hmm. And there are huge disparate results between a bad agent and a good agent and an average agent. So it's wrong to say that we don't earn enough, although you would say that the average agent doesn't earn enough.
Because you as an estate agency boss, you've got two big costs. One's your staff, and one is marketing, of which premises is included in that. Let's be frank, fees. I mean, I was talking to Peter Knight the other day, and fees have been on a downward trajectory for the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's a race to the bottom.
Do you think salaries have not kept up because fees have been dropping, or is there another reason?
Well, I mean, first of all, let me just say that one of my objectives in terms of setting fees isn't just the quality of the service, although that's primary, but it's also because I know if I don't charge the right fee, I can't pay my staff well. Mm-hmm. And I believe that I'm a custodian of their careers and their futures. And one of my biggest goals is to make sure that they have a career, and that runs deep through my background. I used to be in the life insurance business. It was commission only. People effectively earned what they're worth, and they did business on the basis of recommendation and referral. But it was a great career for the right person. That was regulated out of existence, by the way. Different subject. But what I think is, when it comes to salaries, the biggest problem we've got is the race to the bottom with fees. So if you look at the Purple Bricks, for example, idea. So Purple Bricks is not a new idea, it's a very old idea. I was actually a Seekers franchisee in the the late 1980s, and Seekers was called the no commission estate agent. They were on the high street, they charged an upfront fee, no commission on sale. I bought their Putney office. It was the worst office they had, and I remember the guy, his name was Ray, and he was desperate to get out, and I bought it purely to do mortgages because I associated it. It was 1988, I think it was.
Just before the crash.
Yeah, great timing, yeah. And then within a few months, we turned it round and we were getting loads of instructions, and we were one of their top offices, but I knew nothing about how to sell these properties. And then the market crashed, yeah. And I said to the owner, the franchisor, Michael Nyman, he was a lawyer, I said, Michael, we've not got any incentive to sell, yeah? We need the incentive to move forward. And he initially gave me the go-ahead to do a little pilot, and it worked. Yeah, and we introduced 0.5% commission, and people were incentivised, and it was working. And then he said, "Oh no, we can't do that because of the no commission estate agency tag." So I bought my way out of the estate agency, and I conceived the idea of the concept of choice is the multi-service agency, all the services under one roof. And I thought, because I was vehemently, and still am in a way, anti-sole agency agreement. I actually campaigned against it for years and years and years. You could even say that as a result of me, the cooling off period came into place. But having said all that, I was coming from a completely outsider perspective. But what I did was, when I started Choices, I tried to fix the relationship, which I saw as broken, between estate agent and seller. And I did that by introducing an upfront fee, which was a commitment, a back-end fee, which is an incentive. So a commitment plus incentive equals effectiveness. Now, that was my formula. And I used to say to sellers that if you come on with us, in return for an upfront fee, you get a reduced commission on sale. And that's because you don't have to subsidise the time wasters that come into the business. Now, we had, when we started in Choices in Crawley, at one point we had over 70% of the market. We had over 2,000 live instructions. But I'll be honest, because you have to admit your faults as well, yeah? I didn't know enough about selling property in a bad market at that time to know what to do. So when the market collapsed, it was the worst property market since the war. I just did not have the experience at that time. I do now, yeah? But I didn't then. And therefore, over a period of time, it became very difficult. Volumes of sales went down. And in fact, it was always a niche, although we did it so well in Crawley. As we grew, and we did franchise briefly, but we closed those, or we bought them out, and we don't franchise at the moment. And as time went by, and the volumes of sales went down, as a niche, it became less and less attractive. But the real thing that killed it was that I didn't think the 0.5% was enough. And I put that up to 1%. So it was then an upfront fee of, I think, 300 quid plus VAT, plus 1% on sale. And then all our competitors were dropping down to 1% without the 300 quid up front. And it just killed it. And I couldn't feel that 0.5% was enough to give us the incentive to do the job properly.
They say with in the absence of value, you can only judge on price. Is that poor training, that we are not proving our worth? Because there's plenty of agents out there that are getting you 2%.
So, again...
And let's come back to the original question. It's about pay.
Yeah.
Is it because we're not good enough to get higher fees or tell our story to get higher fees that monies have been squeezed and therefore pay's been squeezed?
So I can only answer that in an oblique way, that as a seller or even as a landlord, I would always seek out the market leader or the most competent agent that I could, irrespective of fee. Why? Because I'm sufficiently worldly wise now to know that, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And I believe that these great agents add value. In fact, I believe that estate agency is the most underrated profession in the world.
Well, we're going to talk about that in the next video.
But anyway, and for that reason, but what we've got is a very free and open market with no barriers to entry, apart from the fact if you're a convicted felon of some description. Sorry, American term, but you know what I mean. And that has benefits because it means that we have a lively, healthy market where consumers get choice. If you take that away, right, and you actually knock out all these useless agents, and there are, let's face it, a lot of them. And I'm a great believer in the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, and I believe that at the very maximum, 20% of estate agents are good and the rest of them are very bad, yeah? So if you get rid of all those 80%, that unfortunately creates a new 80-20 rule, yeah?
Yes.
And then it creates another one, and eventually you end up with a very unhealthy market. So my view is that wherever possible, markets should be allowed to operate freely, and if you are going to regulate, you should do so with as light a touch as you possibly can. That's what I think.
We've talked about regulation in the previous video, which people will be able to see on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But coming back, how do people earn more money in this industry?
By being better at their job, by having more belief in themselves. That's for certain. Yeah. So when you go out and you're taking on an instruction, instead of taking it on at the lowest common denominator, because Joe Bloggs down the road does it for nothing, you have to be good enough to stand your ground.
Is it because we are not particularly trained well nowadays? Is it a lack of belief in what we do? Is it the type of people that are attracted to a estate agency?
Okay, so those are all quite big questions. I mean, I think that estate agency has always been very poor. Ever since I can remember.
Well, if you actually look, most people don't actually choose to be an estate agent. They kind of fall into it.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because when I was recruiting life insurance salespeople on a sort of social scale of what people aspired to, estate agents were really a long way further up the scale than life insurance salespeople, I can tell you that. But having said all that, I actually believe that a lot of people are attracted to become an estate agent. I do. I think it's an attractive thing because people are fascinated by property. But the problem comes because they come out of school, they go into a couple of jobs, a desperate estate agent recruits them, gives them no training of any description, and basically they get a very poor experience of the business.
Okay. Do you think is there any issues with the fact is that the vast majority of negotiators and valuers are millennials?
Never really considered that. But
I mean, you must employ plenty of millennials in your agency.
yeah, we do. I think because I've been in this for over 30 years and I've recruited. I was actually thinking about that the other day. Has anything fundamentally changed when it comes to selling? Because let's face it, this is what this is all about. Selling and sales management. Has selling and sales management fundamentally changed in the last 40 years? And my conclusion has been, no, not really.
No, you're still a buyer, still a seller, putting two together. I mean, let's be, one model I love is the U-Move model,
Go on then.
where the valuer, where one of the biggest thing I don't like about this industry is, let's be honest, valuers are normally pretty sharp. Can we agree with that? Compared to negotiators.
Well, let's just put that to one side and say we agree on that for a moment. But
Okay.
yes, yeah, oh, I see what you mean. Compared to negotiators,
Yes.
yeah, they should be the strongest salesperson.
Yes. Yet, the valuer goes out and puts the house on the market, but the valuer, in the vast majority of estate agents, goes nowhere near the negotiating process.
Okay. Have I ever told you about my hyper-local, top-down, bottom-up, phase 1, phase 2 marketing strategy?
No.
Okay. So in the 30 odd years I've been doing this, I was very honest and said I didn't know much about it when I started. Yeah. But I do know a lot about it now. Okay. So I can give you, using again the Pareto principle, an absolutely precise formula with only one proviso that will get you the best price for your property if you follow this through. Okay. Does that sound useful to you if you're a seller?
Yes.
Okay. So how does it work? Well, it all depends on establishing what we actually believe is the target price for your property that it should sell for, right? Now, let's say we've overcome that hurdle, your vendor expectation, and we've said, look, actually, your house is worth 500 grand. If you get 500 grand, you should be happy, yeah? It's not the highest price you could ever imagine, but it's certainly not the lowest. It's the right target for us to aim for. The problem we've got now is that there is no exact price for your property, so there's a pyramid, right? That's a fact. So if I don't put your property on at the highest point on that pyramid, you're always going to feel a bit shortchanged. So what we've done is we've taken that part of human nature and we put it into a strategy using the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. It's not exact, but it's approximately that, and I'll explain how it works. So your property, we've agreed, is worth £500,000. Okay. So what we will do with our phase 1 marketing is we will do what we call top-down marketing. Top down, okay? Top down means we go at 10% above that figure. So we're going to market your property at 550,000 for the first 2 or 3 weeks, okay? You might get lucky, someone might turn up, they might offer you 520, they might offer you, you never know. What we find is in most cases, you won't get an offer based upon that, but you've had a go, okay? At which point we move smoothly to phase 2 marketing, which is called bottom up. Now, using the Pareto principle as close as we can, we knock 10% off the 500 grand target price, and we put your property, and if your property offers over 450 grand. So suddenly, all the people have seen this property come down in price, yeah, from 550 to 450. But this is where hyperlocal marketing comes in, okay? And this is where an open house comes in. And what we then do is we will get a lot of attention, and people will offer you 420 and they will offer you 430, and we'll back all that aside, yeah? We want offers over 450. And what will actually happen is we'll do the open house, we'll get a lot, well, it depends, we'll do it if we need to. We've leafleted all of the homes around you. Why? Because a lot of sales come from people that live within a couple of 100 metres of where you live. We'll invite your neighbours as well as everyone else, so the word gets out in the community that your property is really, really seriously going to sell. And then what we're aiming to do is achieve what's called competitive tension, which is the holy grail of negotiating. We want more than one person interested in your property. Once we get that, bear in mind that the real market price, what we've agreed, target price, 500 grand, we will move from 450 to 500 and sometimes a little bit beyond.
And is this the model you adopt at Choices?
It's what we try to adopt, yeah.
Does it work?
Works for the people that use it. I actually demonstrated it. I asked all my managers to send me their most difficult vendors, the ones that were impossible to deal with. Okay,
yeah.
And I said, I'm going to pick the worst one, and I'm going to demonstrate that this works. And I'll tell you what actually happened. They were an old couple. And the woman was 83, and we had a chat on the phone, and she wanted actually 550. It's great because it was the 500 grand model, okay? So I agreed with everything she said, told her that she knew more about estate agency than I did, and then actually we went through this process.
And it was successful.
It was very successful, yes.
Do you have...
Her husband did have a heart attack, though.
Now, you've got 15 branches. Would it be fair to say that there are different branches that have greater or lesser success with this model?
Definitely.
And would you therefore say that is that variance of success or failure, or none take up, is really down to the calibre of the valuer?
So now, some of my valuers might be watching this video.
Yes, but at least
and I don't want to hurt their feelings, but yes, 100%. Basically, the bottom line is that estate agency, if you boil it down, is probably more than 80% of the person when it comes down to it. I would say, in this instance, it might be 95%.
And therefore, would it be fair to bring it back to the original question, that those that adopt this principle, that get buy-in from the vendors, get better sales, better fees, because you could almost have a succession fee, couldn't you, anything over $500,000?
We did that as well, actually. Yeah.
So really, it comes down to is it the responsibility of the valuers and negotiators to teach themselves and learn more?
So again, I'm going to be perfectly straightforward about this. I've been recruiting and training and developing salespeople now for something like 35 years, okay? And my experience has been that in general, people that need training can't be trained, and people that can be trained don't need training. And by that, I don't mean that there's no training necessary and you shouldn't do training, but what I do mean is that selling is largely talent, okay? And if you actually take somebody who's got talent, it's very easy. A, to show them a set selling system and for them to absorb it. B, for them to find it out for themselves. You're guiding them down a path. But if they don't have any talent...
Right, so they need talent, but they need the ability to be able to be coachable and take on new ideas.
Yes, I mean, what I was taught at the very early point was that management is more taught than caught, and selling is more caught than taught, which basically means you inherit your talent for sales. But of course, you can hone your ability, and I've learned enormous amounts from the mentors that have helped me in the past. They've shortcutted things, they've taken away misunderstandings, they've enabled me to go forward in my career. Invaluable development help that I've had, and that's what I actually want to be able to give to our people. And that's why what most estate agents need to understand, if they're going to grow beyond one branch anyway, is that 50% of their success will be their selection of the right candidate. 50%. And 50% will be how they then develop that person and grow that person.
So if you're a negotiator or valuer, you've got to have the talent and you've got to be open to new ideas.
And you've got to have a good boss. So if you don't have a good boss and you don't have someone, so if you come into the industry with all the talent in the world, and unless you have somebody, that you're directly working for, who is good at their job and can develop people and can show you, not tell you, who can lead from the front and show you, you're going to have a hard job. There are some people that can do it, but not many can.